Hello, hello, welcome everyone. Just give a minute here for people to join us on this sunny, kind of cold day. So welcome all. And thank you for joining Women's Way for the Closing the Gender Wealth Gap Forum, Health and Healing. I am Diane Quinlan-Levy, the Chief Disruptor of Women's Way, and I'm really delighted that you've all decided to spend the next 90 minutes with us, because I'm sure there's lots of other things you could be doing, but thank you for joining us. While we wait for folks to sign on, I would appreciate you taking the poll. We want to know if this is your first time attending a Women's Way event. So if you could just respond to that, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. So today's forum is part of a year-long series whose purpose is to educate different stakeholders about the drivers of the gender wealth gap and action steps each of us can take to help close the gender wealth gap. Since October 2020, when we launched this series, we have conducted 24 forums that address different drivers of the gender wealth gap, such as strengthening the early childhood education sector, decreasing gender and racial disparities in healthcare, increasing access to affordable housing, and eliminating the student debt crisis. During this year, we are exploring how we can create a future where all women have the stability, care, and opportunities they need to thrive. Each session spotlights the change makers and organizations working across 4 key dimensions of the gender wealth framework, a tool developed by Women's Way to promote dignity, equity, and joy in our communities. Today's session will explore the dimension of health and healing, such as having access to a full complement of health services that span the continuum of life, and having time to rest and restore without expectations of labor or productivity. The panelists will explore the deep connections between health, equity, and healing, and the ways these factors drive gender economic justice. You will have opportunities to ask questions to the speakers via the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and we will do our best to answer as many questions as possible. Closed captioning is enabled. If you do not want to see closed captioning, you can click the Hide CC at the bottom of your screen. The chat is also enabled, so please share your comments during the session. We love to see how people are responding to what they're hearing. And to create a safer space for all of us to engage in honest and challenging discussions, we ask each of you to abide to the session norms listed in the chat box. Finally, we will record the session and make it available for you to view again and for those who could not be here today. After the session, we will also send you a list of resources related to today's topic and a survey to evaluate the session. And we do ask if you wouldn't mind taking a few minutes to complete the evaluation, because we take your feedback very seriously as we continue to improve these educational forums. So I know you're here to hear the panelists, but we're going to spend about 10 minutes, Kelly Sheard and I, who's the Chief Strategy Officer, sharing some slides about just providing an overview of the economic state of women and children, our new theory of change, and key concepts related to the gender wealth framework. I first want to thank our session sponsors for their generous support: Ballard Spahr, Terra Health Foundation, and FS Investments. So Women's Way just finished a New Year strategic plan, which we launched in January of this year. And this is our vision. It's really our starting point, what we dream of when we envision the future. And this vision, this can look like a wider community that comes together to ensure access to abortion and gender-affirming care. It could be the opportunity to grow a family and not sacrifice a career, or post-incarceration resources to stabilize re-entering citizens. And our vision is why we exist and how we achieve our vision. So now, how do we get to this ultimate vision? And here we're talking about disrupting oppressive systems such as white supremacy and patriarchy, and investing and strengthening other options that will lead us to a better and brighter future. We know that those who are living paycheck to paycheck, this is a little bit about the economic state of women. We know that those who are living paycheck to paycheck are not able to cover an unexpected $400 expense. And many of these individuals, 40% of Americans, are women. We also know that the region's largest demographic group living in poverty are women ages 25 to 34. Related to these stats is the gender wealth gap, which is larger than the gender pay gap and continues to grow. For every dollar a white man owns in material wealth, women overall own just 32 cents. When considering the racial demographics of the same statistic, for some, Black and Latino women own just 1 penny. The gender wealth gap is a stronger indicator of economic security than the pay gap, as it influences the ability to weather current financial challenges as well as save and invest for the future. And related to the gender wealth gap is also the retirement gap, where 80% of women are likely to be living in poverty by age 65. Not great stats here. So what's the problem? Well, like racial injustice, climate change, and world hunger, the gender wealth gap is a systemic issue, and it will require systemic answers. It is therefore important to examine the design of systems that consistently produce this outcome. Systems are not natural or inevitable. They are constructed by decisions and choices. Our dominant economic system is designed to embed racialized capitalism, wealth supremacy, and heteropatriarchy into its very function, leading to a growing gender wealth gap. And it's important to pause to really examine these theoretical frameworks, as they help explain how and why marginalized genders have inadequate access to and limited experience of wealth. So I'm briefly going to go over these three concepts. Racialized capitalism is capitalism as its core, and is focused on private ownership of property, where one class of people control and profit from the labor of a subordinate class. The social and economic structure of capitalism reflects a system of relationships of domination among categories of people. In the United States, that domination is often racialized. Wealth supremacy is an economic system that believes wealthy people matter more than others. It is a cultural and political processes and attitudes by which wealthy people accumulate and maintain prestige, power, and privilege. And our economic system protects the extreme hoarding of the privileged class by supporting and enabling strategies of extraction and exploitation. And boy, are we seeing this right now in our country. And then heteropatriarchy is a logic that justifies the subordination of all those who are not heterosexual cisgender men. Anything outside of this constructed norm is seen as deviant and unworthy, and therefore dehumanization and oppression of other genders become justified. Big problems, and we're seeing them in hyper form in our country right now. So to really challenge and disrupt dominant systems that perpetuate and worsen gender inequities, we must understand the conditions that keep systems in place. And this diagram shows the 6 conditions that keep a problem in place. There's the explicit conditions, which includes policies, practices, and resource flows, such as government, institutional, and organizational rules, regulations and priorities, activities of institutions, coalitions, networks, and other entities targeted to improving social and environmental progress. And also how money, people, knowledge, information, and other assets are allocated and distributed. The semi-explicit conditions, which are in the middle, are relationships and connections and power dynamics, which are the quality of connections and communications occurring among different actors in the system, and the distribution of decision-making power, authority, and influence among individuals and organizations. The implicit conditions, which many people don't really think about when they're talking about systems level change, are mental models, which are deeply held beliefs and assumptions and taken for granted ways of operating that influence how we think, what we do, and how we talk. And mental models are shaped and influenced by narratives, which are the stories we tell and the mindset, beliefs, and ideas we hold that help us organize our thinking and explain how the world works. And when it comes to the gender wealth gap, we often find harmful narratives that prop up oppressive power structures and enable inequitable outcomes. So a lot of our work, and we'll talk a little bit very briefly, is about narrative change work, which is our theory of change. So this is what it will take to realize our mission and ultimately our vision. In brief summary, gender inequities are deeply rooted in long-standing systems of white supremacy and capitalism. And I'm not afraid to say those words. And I know that people are telling me to be censored, but I'm going to continue to speak this way. We must tackle them at the root in order to see changes. So we can't keep only treating the symptoms of inequities and not address the root. So to do this, we are investing in narrative change work that will shift conversations about gender and economic equity and help build the capacity of our partners to lead and invest with equity. So I'm going to pass this on to Kelly Shear, our Chief Strategy Officer, who's going to continue this presentation.
Thank you, Diane. First, we want to begin by centering our definition of wealth, pioneered by our friends at the Maven Collaborative. When wealth is accumulated, we live and retire with greater dignity, freedom, and peace of mind. Our communities are prosperous, resilient, and vibrant. Future generations have the freedom to dream big and become all they truly can be. And we are healthy and know that our families, networks, and communities are healthy, spiritually whole, and contributing. It's important to start here because we want to move the conversation beyond individual economic stability and the possession of financial assets. Both of these concepts are important, but often not enough to encompass the lived experience of abundance that we seek to build. Next slide. The gender wealth framework provides a way to capture the nuance of an experience of wealth that is most relevant to folks of a marginalized gender experience. It's a roadmap for our network to understand and measure whether their work is moving towards closing the gender wealth gap. The framework also emphasizes the importance of thinking about dominant narratives, meaning the stories we tell about how we got here, who deserves what in order to be well, and how our society should work. We also call attention to how these narratives inform the design and outcomes of the current economic system and how it impacts marginalized genders. For more information, check out our Gender Wealth Framework report, which will be linked in the chat. Next slide. This is very tiny. I'm just going to give a brief overview and then we'll zoom in. So the Gender Wealth Framework expands how we think about and measure abundance and success. The framework encompasses 3 components. Next slide. Material well-being measures traditional notions of economic stability and provides point-in-time assessments of one's financial portfolio. Measurements focus on access and affordability of resources. Lived experience measures the felt experience of abundance in community and institutions. System conditions and context acknowledges and highlights the historical and current structural specificities of wealth inequality by examining the conditions that are keeping us from making progress towards more liberatory futures. Things such as mindsets, power dynamics, policies, and resource flows. Next slide. From here, the Gender Wealth Framework is focused on wealth in 5 dimensions. In today's session, we'll be focused on health and healing. Going deeper, health and healing is defined by the following indicators of success. Next slide. Care includes healing spaces and practices that represent various cultural frameworks and traditions and are inclusive, gender affirming, and accessible. Institutions strive to create a safe, trusting relationship with their communities. Women have access to clean, green healing spaces in their own community. Women have access to the full complement of health services, physical, dental, mental, that span the continuum of care and lifespan. And women have time to rest and restore without expectations of labor or productivity. Next slide. Our goal with this session is to introduce you to organizations and people that are piloting innovative solutions in the health and healing space. We want our network to understand what's possible as we work together to create futures of abundance that work for all. To that end, I'm pleased to welcome our moderator, Aathira Chennat, Program and Data Manager, into the space. Aathira will introduce our panel of changemakers into the webinar. Welcome, Aathira.
Thanks, Kelly. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm really excited to be here and get to be a part of this pretty awesome conversation between panelists that are doing very different and interesting work within their communities, but all connected under this dimension that Kelly just presented about of health and healing. So Without further ado, I'm just going to hand it off to the panelists and have them come on screen and introduce themselves, the work that they're representing today, and a little bit about why their work connects to this gender wealth dimension of health and healing. So yeah, all the panelists feel free to come on screen, and then anyone can kick it off. Erika?
So I guess I can kick it
Oh,
off. Oops, sorry.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Angie.
Hello. My name is Angie Orozco. I'm currently a part of the Speakers Bureau's cohort, and I'm also the leader and founder of the Period Poverty Project at the Community College of Philadelphia. And so this project derived from my own experience with menstrual inequity, and this relates to today's panel and the healing dimension because I advocate for all individuals to have access to these menstrual products on campus through these things called menstruation stations around the different campuses at the community college, as well as a Health John reproductive health vending machine that I help supplement. It has a range of different products such as Plan Bs, condoms, and a range of hygiene products as well.
Lina?
Hi, everyone. I'm Orfelina Feliz Payne, or Lina. I'm the executive director over at Puentes de Salud, and that translates to Bridges to Health. We are a local nonprofit that provides health and wellness services that are bilingual and bicultural to Spanish-speaking immigrants in South Philly and the surrounding areas.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Erika Johnson of Black and Planted. I am a master gardener in the city of Philadelphia that has a farm called Philadelphia Gardens. I also am an appointed member of the Food Policy Advisory Council for the city of Philadelphia, and I'm a representative for the Farmers Union representing Pennsylvania. How our work relates to health and healing dimension. We host so many events and community classes to teach everyone how to sow, grow, eat, and create from the garden, how to make products from the things that they're growing, how to make the culinary meals, and even maybe form their own businesses from that as well. We also host other events such as our community market, as well as our community yearly event. So our main basis is education, healing, and wellness, and many of the aspects that we do.
Beautiful. Okay, so let's dive in. I'm really curious to hear from you all. I know we hear this this refrain that health is wealth. And I think that really gets at the core of this dimension. So I'm really curious for each of you, what does health mean for the communities that you work with? Anybody, go ahead.
I think for the community at Puentes, we're well known for being culturally relevant, providing gender-affirming healthcare, language access services, and all of those things. But at the core of the foundations of Puentes, from the very beginning, all of the programming that we offer has been centered on community voice. And health is relative to community voice. It's the thinking about how you're included in the planning, in the programming, in the distribution, in the access to the budget, and all of those things. And so it's inclusion in many ways for Puentes is a really important component of health, and making sure that everything that we offer is centered on community voice and meets their needs in a way that they understand and are easily accessible.
I love that.
Yeah,
For Black
so
Go ahead.
sorry. So for what I work with, the people I work with, I believe that when talking about health, being wealth, our mission is to provide as many products as possible and ensuring that we have a plethora of products. We don't give limitations. We're not like, hey, you can only take one or two. You can take really whatever you need. And then I also think it goes hand in hand with working with our support group, which really centers the students' voices. And this goes again hand in hand with mental health as well. So ensuring that their voices are heard, ensuring that we have enough products for all. I think that's what wealth means in our work.
All right. So health in our work are, it's the various things. It can be providing education to the community on the Black and Planet side, making sure that everyone has resources to know how to grow food and or the resources to know where they can get free food. We want to make sure that anyone who is hungry basically has access to that. Serving on the Food Policy Advisory Council, we want to make sure that there are green spaces and that they are plentiful throughout the city of Philadelphia. We also want to make sure that there are farms and other spaces where we can grow and just rest and be ourselves throughout the city. It also looks like for us access to purchase to land, policies to protect the farmers, the wellness classes that we do, equity, small business creation, and just spaces that we can continue to educate. So those are some of the things that we really try to advocate for, combat more space for, and make sure that we're able to reach out to the community to make sure that everyone can eat and or be educated on how to do so.
Yes. I'm really hearing from all three of you this idea of like there needs to be a community connection, strong community connection, and that abundance is critical to wealth. Like we need to feel like we have more than enough, that we don't have to worry, and that so much of what comes in between that and us as individuals is feeling like our systems structurally include us. So when community voice is centered, then we have access to what we need and we can feel abundant. Yeah, I love the connections that are happening between the three of you. And so I want to kind of dive in a little bit to Lina, something that you mentioned about culturally relevant care and gender affirming care. I'm curious if you could elaborate on what that means, and then others to chime in on what it looks like in your work.
Yeah. So for us, culturally relevant, gender affirming, it is the freedom to come as you are without the expectation that there's a treatment plan that's already waiting for you on the other side of your care that was created before you even arrived. It's being able to meet with an individual and see them as they are, to speak with them in their native language. 99% of the individuals that we see speak Spanish only. And so all of our staff intentionally speak Spanish. We don't have premeditated questions. We have evidence-based practices and guidelines that we follow clinically that help guide the work that we do. But there is no premeditated care for every individual. And I think that's important, especially with the issues and crises we see in our current healthcare systems. Again, thinking about the needs of an individual and centering everything on their voice as they come in to access services. And that's what culturally affirming, that's what culturally relevant and gender affirming means to us.
Anybody else want to chime in? I'm kind of curious to that point. So I feel like when we think about what medical care looks like, it is a lot of procedures, it's a lot of forms, it's very rigid in terms of what can or can't be done. So as you've been engaging in these evidence-based practices, trying new things, what kind of programs or systems have come up as being able to kind of move away from these rigid procedures into a more nimble and person-centered or client-centered care?
Yeah, that's a great question. We serve Spanish-speaking immigrants. That's the majority of the population of individuals that we serve. And so a lot of what we've had to do is it's been piecemeal, because a lot of what has been created historically through medical professions, behavioral health, all of those systems are still catching up to what the current landscape of the United States actually looks like. And so what we've done is been able to take some of those evidence-based practices and continue to survey and include our community members in all the work it is that we're doing. And so we're merging the input that we're constantly receiving from our community members with these evidence-based practices to, again, make sure that they're working. We have a constant system in place throughout all of our programming. And I should mention, we offer a lot of programming. We have medical care, behavioral health care, dental care, case management, food access programs, and educational and art programs. But with all of them, we have constant surveying of community members. We have focus groups. There's this constant need for input of community voice, and it helps us to align the structure of our programming, again, making sure we're meeting their needs and then staying culturally sound and sensitive to the evidence-based practices, their rules and regulations.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. I think I read something about the Promotera program, where you have people kind of working as community, like training community members to work as community healthcare, like liaisons or workers.
Yep.
That seems like a really cool kind of, yeah, tell me
Yep.
more about that.
Yeah, and the Promotora program, and that translates to a community health worker. And community health worker programs are popular outside of the United States. It's not innovative, but it's innovative here. And so the Promotora program really is, they are community members themselves who have accessed services, any of the services at a point in time from Puentes, but we're interested in doing more and gaining certifications and learning more, whether it was in terms of medical programming, behavioral health, whatever the interest was, where we've offered the opportunity for them to become certified in whatever their interest was, and then to become almost like a train-the-trainer. So Puentes is bridges. I think of the promotoras as a bridge for us because they also live in the community that we serve, and they're seen in the community as leaders. So people will come up to them at laundromats or at supermarkets and may ask them questions about different things that they might need access to, and they know that Puentes has. So they, again, live in the community, we're part of the community in that they access services at a point in time, but have moved through this progression of certifications and job development to put them in a different economic state, which also helps the community overall. And it has an economic value for the city of Philadelphia.
Yeah, I really love that point there about, like, I think this is like another part of cultural relevance that maybe isn't talked about, or at least doesn't come to mind. Like, yes, language access comes first, but it's also like being in the physical community, like culturally relevant, like you're in my neighborhood, I'm gonna walk around, I'm gonna see you. And like, it just becomes a regular touch point that like things, and that reminds me a lot, Erika, of what you do in terms of like going to different communities, being present, working with people, working with community organizations to bring education programs to the community about how to get in touch with the land. Yeah. Yeah. Is there can you say a little bit more about like where you all go and within Philadelphia, kind of what the footprint of Black and Planet is?
Black and Planet, we provide classes, educational classes. We partner with a lot of organizations in the city of Philadelphia as far as hosting what we call a Seed Soul Swap. That's where we have a free community class. People can come out and they can have a expert, 3 to 4 green experts, talk to them about topics that are general level for everyone. And then after those topics are all talked about, we have a seed swap at the end. We have garden supplies that may be swapped out. And it just gives us a sense of community. It gives us a safe place where people can be together, commune together, and get education as well as have fun. I'm your hype girl. I'm excitable. We're going to have a good time when you come to one of my events. When you come to the farmers market, same thing. You're going to feel the energy because we want to make sure that while you're getting this produce, while you're getting whatever from small businesses, you're still getting encouragement. You're still feeling safe and comfortable just as you're walking in the city of Philadelphia in our different spaces. And we want to make sure that we provide that. We partner with organizations in the city of Philadelphia, different green spaces, a lot of coffee shops, a lot of restaurants, a lot of other green farms that are in the city. They love to partner with us because they also have that same sense of community. And so when we are together on the same wavelength, then we're able to all provide the services and work through our purpose together.
Of that. Yeah. Yeah, that's what being culturally relevant really does look like. And so kind of on that note, about rest and green spaces, I'm wondering if you can talk about how just green space, being able to see trees, be in a garden really does connect to wealth, feeling wealthy for women and trans and non-binary people in the community.
So rest is a right. Rest is justice. Green spaces are a right. Safety is a right. And sometimes those rights are taken away from us if you're a person of color, if you're non-binary, if you're in the LGBTQIA community. They want to police us, and we are on a journey to decriminalize rest because people feel as though rest is a luxury. You don't have, how dare you have the audacity to rest? How dare you have the audacity after your 40, 50, 60, 80 hour work week to take a break? No, they want you on go all the time, and that's not the case. If we don't take care of ourselves, we cannot move forward with what our purpose is. Those who have the money, that's where the wealth comes into play. They want to have the better education, the better green spaces, the better money, the more bigger houses, the suburbs and things of that nature. We're still on the ground. We're still fighting. We are still doing what we need to do. Rest is resistance. Rest is resistance. We have our daily stress. We have our systemic oppression. We have our mental health issues, PTSD, anxiety, and depression and things of that nature. The green spaces are our medicine. Our community events are our medicine that feed our soul. When you're on the grass, come on, let's talk about grounding. We're filling up our own bodies with what we need to have and to recharge ourselves. We're able to breathe and we're able to network. Wealth should not be a gatekeeper of peace. We're on a search for that on our own. So, in creating these areas of peace and trying to decriminalize rest. And I'll be very frank, there was just an incident yesterday that happened at a local small restaurant where a homeless person was allowed by the establishment to take a rest, and somebody took it upon themselves to want to assault that person while they were resting. That should not happen. So we have to police and we have to protect our own while we are getting rest. As women and as mothers, honey, we are tired, and we have to learn how to commune together with or without the babies and take those moments of rest and wellness for ourselves. Even when we manage our businesses, and our events and our meetings, there's a way to incorporate wellness into it so that you can take those few moments out. Because sometimes people don't really get those 3 to 5 minutes to take a breather or to take a rest. When we do our markets, we have meditative moments. We have entertainment. We may have somebody that comes and do chair yoga. We want to make sure that we're also taking time out for ourselves, because if we're empty, we can't pour it to anybody else.
Oh my God, talk about pump up. I wish I could just like record. Well, this is recorded. Maybe I'll go back and listen to this when I need to pick me up, because yes to everything. I see a lot of people in the chat. I just thank you so much for saying that it is wealth. I mean, everyone should be able to have the ability to rest. That's everybody's human right. And be it in public space, be it if you have private space, everyone should be able to rest. And green spaces are really critical to giving that opportunity to ground. I was curious to hear also from Lina, because I know a lot of your work is kind of arts and culture based, and you've been able to do some cool engagements with green spaces and public spaces and bringing art into them that's created by community.
Yeah, can I just say, I think we should put Erika's quote on a t-shirt. Wealth should not be a gatekeeper of peace. And that's exactly why I think it's one of the reasons why I'm extremely happy to be part of Women's Way, because the mission, the vision, the work that you all are doing is pushing the same narrative. Oftentimes for the women and people that we serve at Puentes, rest is not an option. They come to us at their very last because they're hourly paid workers and can't afford to take time off. And so we try to find spaces to encourage interaction for individuals where they have opportunities to build community. And if they don't have the opportunity for green spaces, what are the things that you can do throughout the day that take you through them? Whether it's walking to work through a park, right? Whether it's sitting at Puentes in an art project or something that's happening on site. We have therapy that happens on site as well. So there are different opportunities for people to kind of plug themselves in. But in terms of like the arts and culture programming specifically, it was created for the storytelling, for the healing, for the reasons that Erika just talked about. We recognize that people who come to the United States, they often leave families behind. They leave cultural practices behind. They're here learning new languages and just accommodating and acclimating to Philadelphia, and needed a space not only where they could find other individuals who might speak their language, who have the same cultural backgrounds, who have shared values, but they have stories that they need to tell, and they need people who will listen to them and see them and value them. And through the artwork that we have created at Puentes and the art programming, people have the opportunity for those things. And it often happens in painting practices that we have. We have workshops that happen on Saturdays. We actually have our last 8-week workshop happening this next Saturday, where people, again, they have the opportunity to practice art and learn something new about an art practice, but they also have the opportunity to share their stories. And you see it happening generationally, which is powerful. So there are children brought into these practices, and they get to hear from their parents the work that they've had to endure, what their grandparents did for them to get here. The power and the storytelling is a huge component, and a huge component of the healing that happens at Puentes.
Yeah, I mean, I love to hear this. I feel like it touches so well on the fact that healing and health, they go hand in hand. And that physical space is a huge part of making that happen. If we have good physical places where people can come together, public spaces, yeah, we can connect and build that community power. So on that tangent, I'm curious, we obviously have 3 amazing women here who have essentially created the systems or the support that they needed, because the systems that we have, the institutions that exist, aren't providing those things in a way that is actually needed. So I'm curious to hear from you all, as people who've gone out and just created the supports that you need. What can public institutions do, and what steps can they take to kind of repair and rebuild that trust so that they can actually serve the communities they're here to serve and heal?
Yeah, so I actually think the healing starts from the inside of like the institution. So this meaning like honoring their employees, giving fair wages, paid time off, honoring like parental leave, all of that. I think it all starts from within at first, like changing their culture from within. And then I think it also has to do with the public kind of pressuring these public institutions, giving specific asks. I think a great example of this is the people's budget, individuals coming together, giving these specific asks and making them very detailed. I think again, it's about like the public also like taking just being in the conversation with these public institutions. Also just keeping public institutions public, being accountable to as many stakeholders as possible. And yeah, these are just some points I was thinking of.
Yeah, Angie, accountability is huge, right? Like the things I immediately thought of is like public institutions can help repair, rebuild communities by starting to have some transparency in their practices, right? As you spoke of, valuing your employees and valuing the community members you serve also means that you're willing to take that look inside and acknowledge wrongs if there have been wrongs, right? And being able to share those publicly. You can't have a transformation without some kind of acknowledgement of current practices, of current harm.
Waste policy can encourage health and healing to will ensure us to get access to the green spaces, equitable urban planning, even in those green spaces, making sure that there are bathrooms and rest areas, cooling and heating areas, depending on the season, making sure that I urge everybody to take a look at the urban agriculture plan for the city of Philadelphia if you've never looked at it, what it entails, what's in there, how it talks about green spaces, markets, and things of that nature, how it talks about classes and education, how it talks about resources that may be available as well. Other ways are healthcare for all, free and subsidized mental health therapy. Again, decriminalizing arrest and protecting all our marginalized identities, no matter who they are. And this includes anti-harassment laws as well. We all need living wages and affordable housing, and funding our community spaces. So those are some of the things that are important to our advocacy and things that we fight for every single day, and that we continue to fight for so that we can make sure that everybody has access to what they have a birthright to.
Yeah. Well, I love all of these options. I wish we could just make them happen. But it sounds like all of us are all three of you are working in different ways to make sure the communities that you're working with, their voices get heard. Angie, you recently were you're part of the Students Against Period Poverty, and were able to get some pretty cool things passed at City Hall.
Yeah, I could talk a bit about that.
Yeah.
So, Shapiro, like recently in his budget, he included a $3 million allocation for menstrual products in PA schools. And so, a group of people I know and myself like took it upon ourselves to basically create this task force where we could make student voices more heard in this process. We felt like we didn't know enough information on this rollout, what it would look like, would there be dispensers, what kind of products would be included in this like rollout. So we really wanted to like get answers to these questions. We had a medical advisor throughout the whole process. We still have her. We're still working. And we were working with Rep Parker, Lynette Medley from the Spot Period. If you know that place, it's basically it's a menstrual hub in Germantown. Great resource to look into. Like definitely just really admire their work so much. But basically we really wanted to make a student-centered kind of group. We wrote a proposal. We did get honored for our work at City Hall a few months ago. So that was awesome, of course. But yeah, we're working on publicizing our efforts more, writing op-eds, all of that, just getting the word out. Because some people outside of Philly like need to know what's going on. So yeah, it's really important work, and I'm really honored to like even be on the task force. It's just been a great experience. So thank you for bringing that up, Aathira.
Yeah. And this is the same resolution, so that'll ensure that there will be menstrual products available at all public schools, correct?
Yeah, so this is actually a resolution honoring our work. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So but again, like I'm hopeful this will be the case. It's in the starting stages because it's 3 million for all of PA, not just Philadelphia. So, we're hoping like our voices are, not our voices are included. We're going to like make sure our voices are included throughout the next few years as we see how this initiative progresses.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's awesome that you as students are keeping your eye on this and making sure that this money is put to task and that there are menstrual products available for all menstruating students. And I see a question in here, and maybe we back up a little bit and talk about what period poverty is for people who might not be familiar with what it is. Do you
Yeah,
mind?
so
Yeah.
Yeah, so not having access to all these products, menstrual products, meaning pads, tampons, discs, all of that. And also not having the comprehensive education that comes with that. So someone who explains like, hey, this is how you use these products, because it's easy to just like say, oh, here's these products, but it's another thing to know how to use them efficiently, when to like, change, when, like all of that, like having quality products, like this all kind of goes together. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Another thing that I wanted to touch back on was, Lina, something that you mentioned about accountability, that the only way for institutions to really to move forward and try and heal those relationships is to look inward, like Angie said, and then be transparent about what kind of processes they're going through, and yeah, being forthcoming about the work that needs to be done. And so one term I wanted to ask you about that I've heard Puentes use a lot to kind of describe that kind of where we're at right now with the system is structural violence. I would love to hear your thoughts about how it loops in.
Yeah, and the term structural violence, I think a lot of what Diane and Kelly shared early on speak to those things. It speaks to the systems that are put in place to create more harm than good for the larger community. And there has to be an acknowledgement, right, that those systems are actually in place and at play in our everyday lives. And in terms of the work that Puentes has done, again, in terms of building trust with community members, being transparent and centering our programming on community voice, it's been anti the systems that we normally have to access ourselves. So everything that I have to access in terms of my own medical care, I try to make sure that the work I'm doing is the opposite of that, right? So the places where I'm seeing those same systems active and impacting my life, making sure that we're not doing the same thing in the work that's happening at Puentes.
Yeah, I think that's a really helpful frame of like, and also kind of a disappointing frame, right? That we have to like look at where the system exists and then be thinking about, okay, how do I counteract? How do I do like harm reduction on the violence within my community? Yeah, I think it's a really powerful call to action for all of these public institutions that supposedly serve health of the community. And to go like maybe a little bit further into that question, I'm curious to hear kind of what laws or policies or practices you would like to see enacted to better support your communities.
And yeah, it's a great question. And for Puentes, go back to some of the leadership and the policies that developed for the city in terms of language access and the sanctuary city status. Those were two huge policy developments that happened within the city because they started to encourage some health and healing and combating the image that Philadelphia is just a black and white city. We hear that and experience that pretty often. But having a language access policy gave some validation in seeing the growing diversity of the city of Philadelphia. There are growing Southeastern populations, African populations. The Latino community continues to grow. And so having policies and laws that are in place, they acknowledge the power and the presence of the people. I was fortunate enough to attend the GPLEX conference that happened last year through the Economy League, and we visited San Diego, California. And during that visit, we learned about their economy, their workforce development, their educational systems. We learned about the different ways that they have learned to just value all the individuals who live within San Diego. We learned about how every single individual, regardless of legal status, is included in their economy. They're included in the budget. They are included in all workforce development and have access to trade skills and other skills that are available to any community member. And there are also people who live and work on different sides of the border. So there are literally people who walk from one side of the border to work and then just walk back when it's time to go home at the end of their shifts.
Yeah.
And there's this common misconception that, the immigration has been this problem for the United States. It's this huge problem. We can't do it. We can't do it. It's not true. California figured out a way to do it. Why can't we do it in Philadelphia? We have no good reason to support why those same things can't happen across the United States.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear about what's happening in San Diego. And we know these communities exist in Philadelphia, so we should account for them. We must account for them. Yeah, that's really cool. I'm definitely gonna look up some of those policies that you mentioned and maybe share out with everybody about what's happening, what they're doing in San Diego. Yeah. Anybody else want to chime in? I'm curious, Erika, if there's anything happening at the Food Policy Advisory Council that is on the task force right now in terms of policy.
We're just working basically on policies that are benefiting us as far as our farmers right now, as farmers and growers get ready for the season. We're also getting ready to hopefully, people get resources, get money. So that's that time where funding is coming into play. Even while they're freeze funding, there are still smaller organizations that do have current funding that can get that out. So that's where we come into play. We also, it's a time where land access and farms can give out plots to, communities. So we want to spread that information. It's also going to be farmers market season soon. We want to talk about that. We want to let people know about that, as well as where they can go for the community events within the city with Parks and Rec. So there are so many things that we want to do to inquire, to make sure that the community knows what's going on as far as events and education, as well as resources where they can begin to start to grow, where they can rest in these urban ag spaces. So that's where FPAC, Food Policy Advisory Council, comes into play to make sure that the community is connected to these resources and still giving us a sense of wellness and community.
Yeah. I love that there's still this, I mean, let me gather my thoughts. I love that that FPAC is around to kind of support and be this kind of in-between organization to help farmers continue finding funding or managing funding, because I know most farmers are reliant on grants in order to get through every season. So clearly funding is a big need, but in terms of policy, are there other things that come to mind in terms of what farmers and growers need?
Also, some of my work with the PA Farmers Union and the Farmers Union, I'm in Capitol Hill a lot. I'm at the table. I'm talking to our senators. I'm talking to our state reps, bringing certain bills, House bills, to their attention. We're still in limbo with our current farm bill overall. So that's something that hasn't been decided on from administration to administration. We see what's happening with other organizations, per se USDA, and with the layoffs that they're experiencing. So we're in a place now where I still have to be at the table. I still want my voice to be heard. I'm still fighting in these areas to make sure that they know these are some of the things that we need for our communities and our farmers. And I just want my voice to continue to be active. Even in these times, it's very important for our voice to continue to be active.
For sure. Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit more about the bill? This is at Harrisburg.
There's different bills. They all start with like HB, 491, 654. So they're different bills, and each bill will cover, one may cover animals, one may cover vegetables, vegetable growth. One may cover regenerative agriculture, something that some of our smaller farmers and some of our larger corporations are trying to incorporate regenerative agriculture so we can save the general soil of the earth and grow on top of that to save our microorganisms and the bugs that are originally in the soil. And so with that, there comes other things that farmers need in addition to that hasn't been a general thing for the last 25 to 50 years. So adding those things on through policy are some of the things that we talk about on Capitol Hill. Just urban planning alone. They think that we don't do as much urban farming in Philadelphia. How? There's over 500 farms here. We're definitely doing it. So just change the mindset. And not even trying to change the mindset, but make them aware of what we're doing and how we're doing it, in addition to the bills that we want to fight for and what we want to fight on the floor for farmers, for growers, and for the things that we do.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes me think in terms of community farms, is there like much public funding available to support their growth?
There are methods, we sign up the USDA farm number. There's ways that you can get money there. There's other scholarships. There are grants that you can apply for. There are even pitch contests. And when you search, sometimes on my Black and Planet page and on Instagram or Facebook, I'm going to post such and such is having a pitch contest. There are different grants that you can apply for. Usually do the spring and the summer are the times when they are being advertised to get ready for the new season. Black and Planet was the recipient of a grant from the Black Farmer Fund. So I was able to receive some funding from for Illadelph Gardens. So there is money out here. We do have to do a search for it. We do have to let them know that we are here and that we are farming, because Black farmers alone are 1% of all the farmers in the U.S. So we're always on a continuous fight to make our faces be seen. So the fight to get money and land is just that much harder. But we continue to do so. And we would just want those things and those bills and our issues that urban agriculture faces to be put on the floor and talked about more consistently.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm so glad to hear that you're out there at Harrisburg, making sure your voice is heard. Because clearly we need urban farming. We need community spaces. They help. They've been proven to help and hold our communities down. So yeah, thank you for going out there and getting that on people's radar. I want to ask another question about what our communities need, especially now under this new administration. A lot of things have changed really quickly. Funding's been frozen, policies are shifting. So I'm just curious to hear from all of you how your communities have been affected by this as it relates to your work, kind of what you're seeing down the pipeline for the future.
Yeah, and speaking for Puentes, immigrants have never been the fan favorite, right? We've never been the priority population. And so in some ways that hasn't shifted much. And what it's caused us to do is just to be able to, reassess whatever measures we have in place to make sure that folks feel secure when they're accessing services. For community members, there are fears. There are fears in accessing care in different ways that we see coming up. I'm sure many of you have seen. There have been incidents within the school district where children aren't showing up for school because of the fear. There's just a ton of fear that's happening right throughout the communities. And so what's important for us at this point in time is transparency, again, about how we're moving, what we're able to do. what the funding landscape looks like, if there are any impacts to programming, being transparent about that as well. And thankfully, we haven't had any of that. I'm knocking on wood. But also providing education and making sure that folks are aware of what these executive orders actually mean for them on the regular basis. Again, we serve primarily a Spanish-speaking population. Lots of the things that come out don't come out in Spanish. And so there's translation that we do, there's some interpretation that we do to make sure that folks understand things that are happening. But also, we have some community sessions that we call charlas, which are like community talks, where we can explain different things that are happening for community members, again, in their native language and in ways that they understand. So providing education for them and being transparent just about everything that's happening where we have information and sharing it.
Anybody else
Yes.
want to chime in?
Yeah, so with the new political landscape, I think for me, the most important thing has been to ensure that my project, the Period Poverty Project, stays lively beyond me like leaving. So I am graduating very, very soon. So I'm like ensuring that there's people that are just as passionate about the work, continuing to lead this. Obviously staying in contact with those at the Women's Center, at the Community College of Philadelphia, and also just letting people know that the people that I work with know that I'm still a resource beyond CCP. I'm like, I will always like be an advocate for you guys. So I think that's how we're managing right now. I also like work at the Women's Center as well. So we still have like a variety of resources and like things that we offer, such as like HIV screenings. It's a new thing. The Health John resource. I mean, the vending machine. So we still have these things, but I think, like still letting people know like, hey, like I'm a resource beyond this. This is still in place. But, I think like also telling people like, hey, I feel fear as well because of what's going on. But, just staying grounded more than anything.
I'll do what Lina says. We're gonna give them and make them recognize the power of the people. That's what we're going to do. We're going to keep our boots on the ground. We're going to keep working. We're going to keep going. We want to keep being resourceful to each other. We're going to keep giving the community what they need. We're not going to stop. We're going to keep being inclusive. We're going to keep being diverse and welcoming to all and all the work that we do. We're just going to work with each other, with each other and other community resources and other organizations that want to work with us. We're not going to stop our mission. We're going to keep going because what we're doing is important and what other organizations are doing are important. And we want to see them continue to be fruitful, to be purposeful, and to be productive for the communities and for the generations that are to come after us, like Angie said. We want to make sure that these things are standard and that these things will be around so that they can educate and keep hold what we're doing.
I love that. And so on that same note, I want to know, based on kind of your work and collaborating with lots of other organizations and even just being in this room together and talking, how can organizations and initiatives that are all working on different parts of health and healing better come together to support one another and reinforce each other's work?
They can follow each other on social media. They can email each other. They can set up coffee dates. They can hang out at events with each other. They can book a meeting. They can say hello. They can say goodbye. See you later. I need a hug. I need help. I need resources. They can contact us any way they need to make sure when it comes to a community resource, baby, we want to give it to you all. If we have it, we want to give it to you. So we don't buy. We're not the opposition. We're not the ops. So because of that, we want to make sure that you get these things. So we want to be welcoming with open arms to make sure you get what you need. So just through those things, social media, email, When he is at events, speak. We're not, some people want to stand up. All of us are not that way. Just respect person's boundaries, but just simply by speaking or contacting through some type of communication, it's just really that simple.
Yeah,
It really is just that
completely,
simple. Yeah.
yeah, I
I
completely
just
agree with, oops, I'm sorry. I completely agree with Erica. Um, Yeah, I think like creating that bond makes it easier to like collaborate, right? So having that relationship like does make it easier to just like go to each other's events. Like I'm definitely gonna reach out to these two lovely ladies afterwards because I love the work they're doing. I definitely want to attend their events. So yeah, I think like establishing a connection is definitely vital.
yeah, I mean, I think that's a call to everyone on this call if you're attending. The moderators, or sorry, the panelists emails are in the chat. I'm going to share out more resources after. But yeah, I guess it really is just that simple of just sending an email or keeping up with these folks and making sure if you can make an event, go make an event, go to the event, say hello, and get connected and see how you can fit in or contribute. I think yeah, that's how we get stuff done. So I love that. And I want to touch on one other question, which is something that I think, Erika, you talked about. I think all three of you have touched on it, but I think Erika said it so beautifully about rest being absolutely necessary, that it's a human right. And so I think that's like a really, really pivotal mindset shift that we need to understand if we really want to make sure that health and healing is accessible to every single one of us in this dimension. And I'm curious if, as we've talked, maybe there are other perspectives or mindset shifts that we have to take on in order to make this work happen. And that's at the individual level, that's at like as an organization, as an institution, as a funder. What are these key understandings that we need to adopt, and we need to shed maybe some of those harmful narratives in order to make this work happen?
Okay, let me know if I lag a little bit, but I think we just have to continue to collaborate with each other. We have to continue to do it with ourselves. Whatever my daily process is, I do that for myself. I wake up, if I meditate, if I yoga, if I pray, if I play music, whatever that is that makes my day and starts my day, whatever it is at night that I do, that's what I'm doing personally for myself. And then there are things that I can do for my organization. Then there are things that I can do for another organization, and figure out how wellness works for the group. What does that look like? What does the group need at that time, whereas wellness is concerned? So if I know that I'm taking care of individually, then I can produce in the group. And then maybe if I'm not able to, and it's a moment where I'm going through, somebody from the group or somebody else in my personal life can help to encourage me. And then if somebody doesn't have anybody, then that's where organizations like 1, 2, 3, 4 come into play on different topics and different aspects for whatever it may be.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. We have to become practitioners, if we're not already, of the things that we're asking people to practice, right? So if you want people to feel like they have time for their mental health, how are you creating time for your own mental health? If you want the people around you, the people you work with, to feel like they can take a day off, are you taking a day off, right? So there's some self-evaluation and introspection that has to happen in terms of ensuring that we're taking care of our own wellness and practicing that, role modeling it for everyone around us, and making it normalizing that as part of our routines.
Yeah, I definitely love Lina's point. I think a big thing for me is like encouraging people to unlearn biases and unlearn shame. And again, like it all starts within yourself, right? So like at first I was, I guess, a bit hesitant to do the work I was doing, but then like I really like started embracing it to the fullest extent. Like now I obviously talk to people about the work, but I also love dressing up as, you know, like the period fairy on campus, like something fun. So just handing out pads, handing out plan Bs, like just embracing yourself to the fullest extent, like as much as you can, really. So, yeah.
I think something that's striking me from all three of these responses is coming back to this idea of abundance, that we have to kind of create it for ourselves, and that it's so key to being able to collaborate, to being able to create groups of people that are organized and ready to create the systems that we need. I see someone has raised their hand, and if you can put your question in the chat or the Q&A, we'll get to it really soon because we're nearly at that point in the conversation. So I guess I'll just have one last question for all three of you, which is how do we all keep up with you? How do we continue to connect with you and make those make those relationships, build that infrastructure of support, and as well as any one or two things that you really want to share that you want folks who are listening today to come away with about what you're working on, things that they should know.
You all can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Black and Planted. My email is blackandplanted@gmail.com. That's BLACKAND planted, PLANTED. Also, www.beacons, BEACONS.com/Black and Planted. You can sign up for my subscription page and landing there. Some of the things we're getting ready for market season from June through October. So those that have small businesses, in the month of April, we're doing $25 registration for tables. Nonprofits and farms can vend for free. So that's what we're getting ready for market season. We're also getting ready for the Jabali Jungle Plant Experience taking place in August, which is our yearly celebration of urban farms, plant shops, flower shops, and landscape companies. The Black and the brown owned ones on the East Coast. That's going to be at the Wick House come August. So we're getting ready for those things. We also, Saturday 3rd, I will be teaching my intensive class at Kingdom Life Church Ministries. This is a 3-hour intensive, free for the community, for anybody that wants to learn how to grow in a garden or container garden, flowers or herb. This is the class where you want to be. So people can connect with me for any reason at all, for those things, for continued community work and everything else that entails. Thank you so much to Women's Way. I've had a great time today, and all the panelists involved. Thank you so much and having me on.
Yeah, Erika, I think I want to attend that class. I'm going to write you to sign me up for one of those. But so for Puentes, we have really active social media. So, you know, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, for all of those things. You have my email address. Feel free to reach out. On the Puentes website, there's a couple of different email addresses that are listed there. They actually all come to me. So there's multiple ways that you can find me, either on the websites again or through all the social media accounts.
Yeah, for me, I did put my email in the chat, Angie Orozco, RA@gmail.com. Right now, I will be moving on to a different institution. So I'm hoping to continue my work in reproductive health in some shape, way, or form at my next institution. But for me, it's, you know, like my whole project started at the Community College of Philadelphia. So if you could somehow support the Women's Center, that'd be awesome. Now we're named the Gender and Sexuality Resource Center. We also, also other groups of support are like the Spot Period, one of my favorites. I used to volunteer there a lot. Yeah, just literally keeping up with menstrual equity, Students Against Period Poverty Task Force. I am still on that. If you want to ask for any of our op-eds, please feel free to reach out via email as well.
Well, yeah, I'll definitely keep an eye out for what you all have coming down the pipeline in terms of all that money and figuring out where that's going. This is so great. I'm really glad that all three of you could be here. This has been a great conversation, and I want to open it up to people attending to see if there's any questions from the folks out there. You can feel free to put them in the chat or in the Q&A. Currently not seeing any, which is fine. I'll give it a couple more seconds. One question that I was curious about, Lina, you had shared about some of the really amazing policy work that's happening in San Diego around undocumented folks in the city. I was curious if there were other initiatives that you all are really fond of in Philly or outside, things, policies or practices you're seeing that really work that you want to bring here or just lift up.
Yeah, Aathira, it's a great question. I can send some articles. There are some other states that are doing some pretty, what's considered innovative for the United States, but wouldn't be considered innovative elsewhere. But following very similarly on the recognition that folks should not be excluded based on legal status, based on gender, based on race, ethnicity, any of those things. So lots of things that are kind of relative to Title IX in a lot of ways. But I'll share information that you can share throughout the rest of the group.
That's great. I am seeing another question. This is from Tiaja. Thank you. I'm really interested in hearing a bit more about the collective and collaboration strategies for your different organizations. Socials and events are nice, but how do you mobilize or motivate people to attend? What are other ways to garner support and real actionable support from other organizations outside your realm? That question.
I think most of mine is mostly from email communication, press releases, other promotional advertisement, definitely for the events still, because you never know who may come to an event. I send press releases to most of the major organizations and media, but also on the ground, it's just communicating with other organizations that are like-minded, that are like minds, that are doing some of the same similar work. We do have meetings, we do have meetups where we can talk about the work that we're doing. They may be informal at this moment, at this time, because dare I not add another thing onto my plate. But they are there. Those conversations are being held. And again, spaces and places where there is maybe money involved or grants involved, resources and or funding. So the conversations are being had. Small meetings. For me, again, it's email, it's networking with the larger companies as well. I have a seed library, so I get a lot of donations from some of our larger seed companies. I get a lot of donations and sponsorships for as supplies for the classes that we do. So that's about networking. And once they see that you're doing some type of work, they'll latch on. They may start to give you other resources. They may start to help you out in other ways because of the work that they see you doing. So sometimes, as long as your light is shining and continuously shining, then you're able to, other companies are able to help you and other businesses are able to help you as well.
Yeah, that consistent outreach is like no joke. It's a lot of hard work. But yeah, like you said, I feel like it can be really fruitful in terms of meeting people. Yeah, and getting connected to resources. Sorry, Orfelina, I cut you off.
That's okay. And for the staff at Puentes, we all come from different spaces and have different interests, and we are all involved in different organizations based on our own interests that we are supportive of. And so we're coming into other spaces where we can share resources, where we can be a listening ear and just provide support. And I think once people see that and see that you're not necessarily engaged to gain something all the time, but you're there to be a resource as well, that opens the door for further collaboration. We also have some like community chats that we're engaged in and involved in, and so we're constantly hearing the things again that are happening in community and responding and sharing resources and doing that. So there's a constant back and forth. Um, I think one of the things that Women's Way does really well, and I'll give a shout out to Aathira, Diane, and Kelly again, is also being really transparent and standing firm on who you are. Standing firm on your values as an organization, making sure that your programs align in those ways, and making sure that the staff align and everyone's on the same page and saying the same exact thing. There is a strength in transparency, and there's also a strength in standing 10 toes down on everything it is that you believe. And once people see that and recognize that, you'll have people who have shared values who'll come to seek you out as well.
I do. I love that. I love that advice. And I feel really thankful that I'm part of an organization that really knows who it is and is not afraid to, yeah, to be forthcoming about that. I feel that, yeah, that's so true. Because we meet partners like you, like all three of you. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm not seeing any other questions in the Q&A, so maybe I will thank you three so much for being a part of today's discussion around health and healing, and thank everybody here for attending, and I hand it off to Kelly to close this out.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. So thank you to our moderator and panelists for their time and talents. Your expertise is deeply appreciated, and we're lucky to be in community with you. So thank you very much. To our audience, we want to hear from you. So please give us your feedback on this session by taking the survey that is linked in the chat. We'll continue to unpack the dimensions of the gender wealth framework. You'll see our next session listed here on the slide, along with our big convening, the Gender Wealth Summit, which takes place in the fall. But you don't have to wait that long. We hope to see you at our annual celebration on May 21st. It's a good time to come out, fellowship, get to know people, hear what we've been up to, and it's a celebration. So we hope to see you there. We have events and news to share with you, our community, so make sure that you're following us on social media and that you're signed up for our newsletter. Until then, friends, have a good evening.
Thank you.